How on earth do you test a spacecraft that's about to slam into our atmosphere at around 40,000 kilometers an hour? Because that's what the crew of Artemis 2 are about to do on their trip home back from the moon. Back here on Earth, if you want to test a passenger vehicle, you just make a few more and push them to their breaking point. A car, for instance, is relatively easy. You just put some dummies in it and slam it really fast into a wall. For NASA, it's not quite that easy. The Orion capsule bringing the Artemis 2 crew home from the moon is about to enter the most violent part of its journey. A fiery plunge through the atmosphere at 40,000 kilometers an hour, 25,000 miles an hour, hitting temperatures of around 2,700 degrees C. You can't just crash test that into a wall. And the price of a car is negligible compared to the price of a spacecraft. So instead, they make a tiny model and fire it out of a massive gun. And I got to see how they do it. NASA invited me on a tour of the Ames Research Base in California, along with some other creators, and an astronaut tagged along for a bit too. I'd like to share the hypervelocity free flight aerodynamic facility with you. Our tour guide was Chuck Cornelison, and I'll let him describe what they do here.
Think of it as a wind tunnel that works in reverse. You have the ballistic range, the air is fixed, the model's flying through it. That allows us to propel these models up to close to 8 kilometers per second, over 18,000 miles per hour.
So they make a model of the Orion capsule that's small enough to fit in this gun. Fire it down the test section and use the windows down the side to take not just photos, but shadowgraph images of what's happening inside. And this is what they get out of it. They can see how the capsule reacts to the airflow, then change the angle of it so the base acts like a wing and generates lift so they can control it as it flies through the atmosphere. Tests like this are important because it helps them guide the craft to a precise landing spot on Earth, minimising the amount of time it takes for the recovery forces to get them home and dry. It's so hard to consider the sheer number of people involved in making spaceflight happen, and it's not just the astronauts and the mission control teams you see on TV. Space exploration requires a lot of hands in so many places across the world. And the machine shop is one that I'd never thought of before. A huge building full of tools and engineers who make everything from tiny models up to whatever you need a lathe this big for. God, I really wanted to have a go with all of these tools. All of the models for the different tests and spacecraft are different sizes, so to make them fit uniformly down the gun barrel, they make a shroud called a sabot.
We make the sabots in-house. We just make them out of like 4 pieces. So the idea is that as it leaves, it splits apart.
They fly away, leaving just the model going into the test chamber. The shadowgraph imagery is more than just pointing some cameras at the window and pressing a shutter button.
On the opposite wall of this tunnel here, we've got a bright spark which illuminates the mirror that's on that wall, passes through onto a mirror right here, which then focuses it down onto this electro-optical shutter mechanism.
Oh, wow.
Because the object is moving so fast, they've had to add their own shutter into the chain instead of using the one in the camera. Remember, this is moving at tens of thousands of kilometers an hour. No earthbound camera is ever going to need to take a photo of something moving that fast. A normal photo exposure is 1 to 20 milliseconds, about 0.002 seconds. For these shadowgraphs, the shutter needs to be open for only 40 nanoseconds. That's 0.000000004 seconds. Did I get that right? 0.00004. At the end of its journey, the model crashes into a plastic bed at the other end of the test chamber, where it's destroyed or even vaporizes depending on how fast it's going. 1 minute it's metal, and the next it's gone forever. They built this facility in 1964, and they've been using it ever since.
It was designed specifically to study the Apollo return conditions. Virtually every probe that has entered an atmosphere, planet or moon's atmosphere, that NASA has sent up there has had some testing done in the ballistic range.
Before I leave you with some words from an astronaut whose life depends on this kind of stuff, I just want to say a big thank you to everyone at NASA Ames Research Center for taking time out of your day and allowing us to share the amazing things you're working on. If you want more details from this facility, I'm going to be uploading some extra bits to my Patreon, and Scott Manley has several very detailed videos about everything we saw on this tour. But now here is astronaut Matthew Dominic, who joined us on part of the tour in his spare time, so he could also see more of what happens behind the scenes at NASA.
I was so grateful just to sneak in behind and kind of just watch and listen. I'm wearing the costume, but listening to Nick talk, or these gentlemen talk about their art. It's so many people it takes to do all these crazy little pieces, right? I say this a lot, but I'll say it again just to think about it. We were in space on the Crew Dragon, and I sat in my seat, and we're coming home to Earth after being gone for 8 months. And we're over Australia, and I remember distinctly looking at the display saying 34 minutes to splashdown. At that point, we're in space in a very thin atmosphere. We do our deorbit burn, which slows us down 100 meters per second, right? And then we're in the atmosphere. The rest of it's going to be handled by the heat shield. We're going to manage our CG and our CP to fly through the atmosphere like an airplane. So we've gone from a spaceship to an airplane. Then we're under parachutes, and then we land in the water and we're a boat. Right? That is no small engineering feat. And now you have 4 pink bodies on the inside that have to live and breathe and eat and complain, right? And all of that stuff is going on the inside of that, inside of a vehicle with 4 seats, and they're all alive when they come down and splash down the Earth to see their families. Think about the gazillion miracles that happen because of all of the people around the world that put that together. So when you ask me about how I feel, when I walk in there and I see people like Nick or whoever, I'm just grateful that each of these little people put this all together to make that happen. Sorry, that was more than 2 minutes. I'm just not going to let you make a short out of it.